Folks, three guys from Pittsboro are finally back. Thanks to the stormy weather, we have not been around, but we are back. Stormy weather. We're not going there. Okay, we're at Paige, Vernon Park. Our special guest today is Mr. Jeff Denny. Some of you UNC basketball fans may remember him. Some of you who need power generators may know him. And then, of course, we have got Greg and Eric and myself. And we did something different. We just ran across the street to the gas station, and we picked up some Indian food.
So, and it is freaking killer.
Freaking killer.
As usual.
You two had the same thing. What did you have again?
Garlic. Our chicken, SAAG.
Chicken sod. It was delicious.
Chicken sod. And you had some garlic. What was that?
Garlic naan.
Garlic naan.
Garlic naan.
And what was this?
Vegetarian samosa that I was going to eat till you put your hands all over.
Look, I just broke it off. You can have a piece.
I
Here,
don't
you go.
want a piece.
No, it's all right. Just
Nah, I don't know.
I cut it off.
Nah, that's all right.
All right, and Eric and I had the butter chicken, and again, I finished mine off. I still have some rice left, but we had to get on with the show, so that was going to go here. Oh, and the other thing, too, you may want to try this. You guys are probably not going to want some because I put my
No, I don't.
spoon in it.
No.
But they had a mango freeze, but it's like a mango smoothie. Would definitely recommend it, but did not want to drink it all, so this is fun.
What was that thing we had at Niles, the food stand?
And that was the muscadine slushy.
Muscadine.
And those things are friggin' killer too, dude.
Yeah, there's some good food choices here in Pittsboro. All right, you want to just move on to the side?
Yes, I want to move this to the side.
All right.
All right, so
What do we want to start talking about? Well, let's start with our special guest.
I'm going to start with our special guest.
Okay.
Because we're going to connect him to another special guest.
We're going to have another special guest?
No, we had a different special guest, who was
that's
Freddie Kieger. And Freddie was Jeff's swimming teacher when he was a little kid.
When I first moved to Rural Hall, North Carolina, the garden capital of the state of North Carolina, my mom got me some swimming lessons so I wouldn't go to the bottom of the water. And lo and behold, Freddie Kieger was the lifeguard at our pool. Freddie Kieger taught me how to swim. And now, 45 years later, 50 years later, we connected back in Chapel Hill and at the Carolina Games and everything that he does for the university. So,
Well, back when you were going to UNC, you still had to pass a swimming test, didn't you?
sure did. Sure did.
And thanks to Freddie Kieger.
Thanks to Freddie Kieger, I have a degree from Chapel Hill now.
And so the next thing I wanted to do beyond connecting to Freddie was go through when he was coming up, because I want to connect him, because sooner or later we're going to get Drake Powell's parents on.
Yes, we will.
And I'm trying to find a common thread of how do you coach your kid where he's competitive to play a place like Carolina. And Jeff's dad is totally different, or was totally different than everything I've ever heard from the parents I know that had their kids, at that level. So
Yeah, I didn't do a very good job of following my dad's footsteps in how to parent to have my kids, I guess, go to college and play sports. But my dad was incredible. He was really, really different in that after every game, whether it was baseball, basketball, or football, there was no coaching in the car, there was no coaching at home in terms of, hey, you should have done this, why didn't you do this? It was a steady diet of, you did great, I'm proud of you.
So did you play all those sports?
I did. And that was it. And so looking back on that, there was not any, I guess, animosity or, I'm not living up to what my dad wants me to do. He was just proud of whatever I was doing. And he let that be known. And that, in a roundabout way, encouraged me even more to want to go out and continue to thrive and push myself and try to be the best version of me that I could be, no matter what sport I was playing. But it was a steady diet of, you did great, I'm proud of you.
So what was he most proud of?
I think I was most proud of just the fact that I gave everything I had to whatever sport I was playing. It wasn't about wins and losses. It wasn't about 30 points or 10 rebounds. It was just, hey, you did great. You played as hard as you could and did all you could. And sometimes that was enough, and sometimes that wasn't. But at the end of the day, you did great, and I'm proud of you.
What put the biggest smile on your face? What event or what couple events with your dad put the biggest smile on your face?
I look back at both my parents, my mom and my dad. They were incredibly supportive of my brother and I. And the biggest thing then and now that I look back on what they gave was presence. They were there. They hardly missed any games in college. They missed 0 games in high school and middle school. And so just knowing that, like in a basketball game, at the beginning of the game, we're doing layups, we're warming up, and I could look up and see them. And all I needed to do is look once. All right, I know that they're there. All right, let me go do my thing. And I never looked back up.
So you're telling me that when Coach was looking at you, you didn't turn to your dad to see if that was okay?
No. I actually had a high school teammate that played major college basketball, Division I basketball, at one of the ACC schools. That his mom would stand up there and go, how many points he had or how many more he needed to get.
Oh, wow.
And so, no, my parents never did that. Fast forward to talking about kids today and how involved parents are with coaches and playing time. And I know that the college coaches today that just get a steady diet of parents. Why is my son not playing more? Why is he not getting more shots? Why is he not getting more minutes? And I didn't know that was a thing. So I'm looking back going, why didn't my dad go to Coach Smith and say I should be playing 30 minutes a game instead of 12 minutes a game? My mom and dad dropped me off my freshman year in August, and then they were on the court for senior game my senior year, and I don't know that they had a conversation with Coach Smith during 4 years. I don't know that he would have allowed it, but it's definitely a different animal when the parents are texting coaches, 5 minutes after a game, hey, my son didn't get enough shots.
Surely college is different than high school. Don't you think that part of your upbringing, being able to play multiple sports? I mean, it seems now, with sports nowadays, the parents, the coaches, there's so much pressure. Like, a kid has to commit to a sport at 10, 8, even 6 or 7 years old. They have to commit to a sport.
And the European players they're committing very young, and they're playing pro ball by the time they're 15 and 16 years old.
But like, we played baseball in the spring,
Right.
football in the fall, basketball in the winter. I mean,
And there were times during the spring and summer where we played 3 in a day.
right.
It was all pickup in the neighborhood. And, hey, all right, we're done playing basketball. Let's go over here and play a football game real quick. We need 2 more. Hey, y'all come on, let's play a football game. And then that transitioned into a baseball game.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of youth lost with kids today. And it has to do with probably how we grew up, that we were out here and let's make a game. And
Right.
we got creative and we figured it out. And, if it was a bad call or something, we had to work it out. Now I got to have my kid on a travel team because they've got to go do this and this, and the statistics bear out that they're not going to play whatever it is that they're playing. So why spend $30,000 over 6 years to do all that?
Who's that coach? Football coach that got fired at Oklahoma State, the one with the mullet.
Mike Gundy.
I saw him speak about 7 or 8 years ago, and they asked him what it was like to coach nowadays, and he said, the kids I have are taller, bigger, stronger, faster. And if you beat the kids from 20 years ago, they beat the heck out of these guys, because he's like, I used to recruit guys, and they have a giant scar on their arm, and he'd be like, what's that from? They're like, we're winning. We've got a football game in the front yard, and I hit the mailbox. But then you'd have these 320-pound beasts, and they would barely roll their ankle, and they act like they got shot. It's just it's a whole new different mindset.
Well, we were also going over behind the house and drinking water from the spigot and the hose, to get
That's
they're not having mom run over to the store and get a Gatorade.
You didn't go in the house to get a drink of water. You just went over and turned it off, let a little water pour out so you can get a spider and
Don't come back to this house until the street light
Right,
comes
no.
on.
They put you out in the summertime. They put you outside in the morning, and you had better not go inside till night.
You sound like a bunch of old guys.
What's the furthest you went on a bike as a kid? How far?
We rode probably about 15 miles.
That's what I remember.
Probably 5 or 6 miles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's a
kids,
different age.
kids today probably don't.
And
know
you went out
500 yards.
a helmet, a bike
yeah,
helmet.
we didn't
I
have
never knew a helmet was a thing.
Well, there are kids with helmets, but they needed.
We're gonna get in trouble for that one. That was Eric Andrews.
I didn't say the word I'm not allowed to say.
Speaking about pickup games, did you participate in the pickup games over in Granville Towers?
We sure did. Yeah.
What was fun about that? Because that was, you guys just went out there just to play.
You know, there was only one thing that was fun about those games.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
And that's the fact that we were out there in shorts on, and the girls were at the swimming pool at Granville, and so all we were trying to do is get noticed by the girls at Granville. It had nothing to do with the basketball game. It had nothing to do with making a shot, anything. It was, are the girls, do they even know that we're over here playing basketball right now?
So when did you meet your wife?
So I very thankfully got remarried about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it's an incredible story on how we met. My brother passed away unexpectedly, and I had moved back to my hometown to take care of some estate work. And while I was there, there's a little Italian restaurant in Rural Hall. I went to a few times, and lo and behold, I didn't know this, but as I tend to chat people up and talk, and hey, how are you doing, and tell me a little bit about you, she went home and said, hey, Mom, there's this guy that has come in the restaurant a few times that you need to meet. And so she spent the next few weeks coordinating us connecting, and we connected, went out, and now 3 years later we're married, just having a great time.
Now, was that an Italian restaurant or an Italian restaurant?
It was an Italian restaurant.
Let's see, what else we want to know?
Do we want to? Oh, you know what? A couple of years ago, we sat over at the mill in front of it, and we were talking about Drake Powell.
Yes.
And back then you said Drake had a lot of potential. That was when his senior, I think it was his senior year at
Northwood, yeah.
And you were talking about what you saw his potential at UNC. Now, again, we know he just spent a year there, but overall, what's your assessment of Drake from high school to now where he's playing in the NBA?
Well, I think the most important thing I'll say about Drake and his maturation as a basketball player, but also as a person, is that he's still the same person that I've come and learned to know about him. Him going on to the NBA hasn't changed who he is, and so that's first and foremost. As far as how his basketball game has improved, I expected him to have that opportunity to play in the NBA. I have to say that I didn't think it would be after 1 year. And so that's a testament to the hard work and the people in his life, whether it's parents, coaches, and people that have had an influence on him to point him in the right direction. I remember seeing him as a freshman at Northfield, thinking, wow, that's a really talented kid, he's a great athlete, he's going to be able to do all the things. But I didn't think he could shoot the ball that well. And his improvement on shooting the basketball from freshman year, high school to freshman year at Carolina was remarkable. And so kudos to him for being coachable and going out and working on it. There's so many kids today that have the talent but are not coachable.
And I think part of what makes him coachable is the fact that his parents allow him to be coached.
Yeah.
They're not.
Well, you guys coached correctly together for several years, didn't you?
Right.
How'd that go for you?
Who was in charge?
We're still having lunch together, so it wasn't too bad.
Well, my favorite story, you love this story.
You love it.
We're in the 9-10-year-old county championship game, and we're down one, or up one, I don't even remember, but the opposing team is on the free throw line, and Jeff ices a 9-year-old.
Did you call a timeout?
No, wait, hang on.
Oh, okay.
I may have been out of timeout, but at that point in time, you had to improvise.
No, so he starts arguing, and I could tell a second story that's worse than this one. So he starts arguing, with the ref. I don't even remember what you were arguing with him about, but he's arguing with him about something. Goes through a 5-minute argument and gets to the end of the argument while the kid's standing there and then goes, timeout. And so then the kid has to sit down after standing in the line for 5 minutes. Then they get back up and he hits him with the second timeout after arguing some more. And by the time that kid rigged those free throws, and it was terrible. But anyway, so
Well, it wasn't terrible because we had gone to overtime in this game.
No, that's true.
It was
Okay.
tied up, and the overtime rules at that age group was first basket wins.
Oh, okay.
Not first two
Oh,
quarters.
that's what that was.
It was just first basket. So if he makes his free throw, we're game over.
And that's the argument he was having. This ain't just one shot. He's got to hit them both or it's not a basket. So anyway, he iced him, bricked it. The other one,
Hold on. How did it turn out?
we won.
Okay.
Yeah.
What matters?
So the second story is they're in Kernersville. I'm not coaching this team. He's coaching my daughter in travel ball. Close game. Our team scores, and Jeff's brother was deaf and was at the school for the deaf.
North Carolina School for the Deaf in Morganton.
Okay, so Jeff is fluent in sign language, but we're in Kernersville and the referees are deaf.
Okay.
And so we score and go ahead. The other coach is down there trying to call a timeout, but Jeff's got all the refs. He's signing to all three of the refs, so they never see the guy calling a timeout. So the clock runs out, game over, we won. And I was like, oh,
That's a good one.
Listen, these are things that I learned from Coach Smith.
Yeah.
You know, Coach Smith was an incredibly competitive person, and he would find little things, little ways to help out. So
You don't have to answer this question, but what's it like growing up with a deaf brother?
you know, I look back on my experiences with my brother, and one, I'm incredibly fortunate, but I'm also incredibly proud of the person that he was and what he overcame during his life. I've tried to go out, and I can't replicate it, but I've tried to go out and put earplugs in or headphones on to just try to understand what it must feel like for someone who is deaf. And so for him to have had that disability for 58 years and didn't let it define who he was is incredibly uplifting. And so I love the fact that I know sign language. I still can speak sign language. And one of the most rewarding things as a human comes from my brother and me knowing sign language, because now he's passed, but if I'm out anywhere, grocery store, wherever, and I see someone that is speaking sign language, I'll make it a point to go over, talk to them, use sign language, and their eyes get as big as saucers. And it's because they have so few people that know sign language that they can communicate with. And if you just take that little time to, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? Where are you from? Their eyes get as big
Is
as
that
saucers.
the introduction you start out with?
Yeah, yeah.
And what's that introduction?
What's your name?
Okay.
Where are you from? My name is Jeff. And just start there, and they'll go wherever they want to go, but they're just like, oh, wow, here we go, let's talk. And it's incredibly rewarding. And I think that, you know, I'd like to think that the compassion and empathy that I have for folks comes from my mom and dad telling me that even though I was the younger brother, that I had to look out for my brother, and I had to hear from him because he couldn't hear. And so those are things that I think allowed me to, you know, as I got older, you know, I kind of had my head on a swivel because I always had to watch out for my older brother.
You had to have a situation where you guys use this to your advantage. There has to be a story.
Well,
And winning the basketball game.
my mom did tell a story one time, and I wouldn't say it's used to our advantage, but my mom and dad told my brother to never cross the road on the street that we lived on. And so I think I got a glove or a ball or a football or something one time and went across the road and kind of kept it from him. And needless to say, when I got back in the house, I got worn out because I'm on the side of the street that he couldn't go on.
Oh, yeah.
So.
What was the
anyway,
age? What was the age difference?
He was 3 years older than me.
When y'all fought, who won?
So he got me early. I got him, kind of mid and late, and it's one of those things. Now I'm looking back on it. I probably have some reservations about the times that we fought.
Did you sneak up on him because he couldn't
No.
hear you coming?
No.
Going to hell.
Greg would have done that.
Yeah.